If you've shopped at any grocery store lately, you've noticed something big. If eating healthy was a challenge before, the rising price of food has made it even harder. And if your nutrition clients are struggling to afford food, they won't be able to pay you. So making suggestions to help them eat on a budget is even more important. Which is why in today's video, I'll give you tips and strategies to help your clients eat healthy on a budget. Starting with tip number 1, replace meat with other protein sources. When looking at protein sources, the go-to is usually animal products like chicken, beef, lamb, pork. But since the normal household's grocery bill has risen around 10% in the last year alone, many are starting to revisit the expensive stuff, which in this case is meat, as well as dairy and fruits and vegetables, but we'll discuss that later in the video. But back to meat. If your nutrition clients can swap out some meat for other protein sources, like other vegetable protein sources, the pulse crops, namely chickpeas, lentils, black beans, edamame, they can save on cost as well as get protein sources with an excellent amino acid profile. Pulses can come either canned or dry, with literally hundreds of ways to prepare them, like adding beans to ground meats to stretch them out even further, or creating savory dips like hummus or black bean dip that come in handy at snack time. Canned goods or dry beans are typically $1 to $3 per can or bag, which can provide adequate protein while not breaking the bank. Although not plant-based, canned tuna is another inexpensive and excellent source of protein. One can of tuna has around 30 grams of protein for only $1.50. Now, if a client is insistent on using a specific kind of meat, they can always shop for different and cheaper meat options to get the same flavor profile, like bone-in, skin-on chicken versus boneless, skinless, like sirloin tip steak or eye of round steak, or even stew meat for beef. And it isn't just meat substitutes. There's things like nutritional yeast, which is a good substitute for Parmesan, which has tons of micronutrients and lasts a long time, which is going to be an important consideration for anyone on a budget. Okay, but these budgeting concerns aren't exclusive to meat, which brings us to tip number 2, buying frozen or canned fruits or vegetables. Frozen fruits and vegetables get a bad rap, and they shouldn't, especially when we look at what contributed most to the rise in grocery prices. It's coming mostly from fresh produce. The solution may lie in buying canned and frozen fruits and vegetables when possible. Frozen blueberries, strawberries, green beans, broccoli, and carrots are an excellent option over fresh produce. This simple change can make grocery shopping even more cost effective. Keep in mind, everything is harvested in the peak of freshness, then frozen and packaged, and the science shows that you're getting the exact same nutrition profile if you're consuming them this way. The same can be said for canned fruits and vegetables like black beans, corn, pineapple, and peaches. They are processed at their peak freshness. Now, for many clients looking to control their calories, they may need to be particular with their fruit. See, many of the canned fruit options might have extra syrup, so be on the lookout for no sugar added options to avoid extra carbs. And generally, you don't have to worry about them going bad, like what happens in your crisper when you swear you're gonna eat all of that romaine lettuce. Outside of keeping something in your freezer for way too long, your clients don't have to be concerned with wasting these fruits or vegetables. Also, one pro tip for clients bringing meals to work is to add vegetables to their meal frozen. That way they don't have to worry about ice packs or a cooler. Buying products that are already frozen or canned helps, but you can do many of these things on your own with tip number 3. Buy in bulk or freeze. When it comes to buying in large quantities, there's no better option than Costco or wholesale stores. Although keep in mind, spending $500 for a decade's worth of ketchup kind of defeats the purpose. But if your clients have the ability to buy larger amounts of meat or frozen fruits or vegetables, buying in bulk can dramatically reduce the cost of a meal. For example, an entire family-sized package of chicken breast is roughly $25 with enough for 8 to 10 meals for an individual. Buy some freezer lock Ziploc bags and separate them out individually so you don't have to thaw more than you need. There's a common theme to a lot of these tips, and it's preparing more of the food yourself, which brings us to tip number 4, avoid eating out when possible. This tip is no fun, especially if you're an outgoing social person, but eating meals out of the home is a quick and easy way to derail your food budget. Restaurants are businesses, so they're typically looking to make money, which means you pay the difference for what you get, especially with the rise of food costs being passed along to the customer. Now, I usually encourage some social eating because it is important, but the key is having a plan and sticking to it so you can budget it in and there's no guilt or remorse. For most clients, this usually means trying to limit eating out to 1 or 2 times per week, prioritizing dining experiences you actually enjoy, and trying to prepare most of your food at home. And you can do that much easier with tip number 5, which is finding protein sources from local producers. If your clients are looking for a large source of meat, local ranchers or farmers will typically offer a better price per pound than in the grocery store. This may include buying a quarter or half of cow with all the cuts prepared the way you like it, or even other livestock like whole chickens. This is possible, but it's all about asking around around and forming the right relationships. If someone does decide to go down this route, it's usually best to have a large freezer or go in with a few friends to share the cost and divide up the meat. This way, everyone you know will have a high quality protein source throughout the entire year. Also, if you're wondering if a deep freezer is worth it, the budgeting nerds have crunched the numbers and you can save a lot of money if you freezer cook, and especially if you do what I'm about to detail in tip number 6, which is source your own protein. In many areas of the world, hunting deer, elk, or moose can provide a great source of protein for anyone that's adventurous, willing to trek outside for 4 to 6 days per year. Many wild game is going to be a high quality source of protein with very little fat. Moose has some of the lowest fat around at around 1% compared to beef and chicken, as well as very rich in micronutrients, iron, vitamin B, and vitamin A. Some people might stray away from hunting, but the methods in place are very respectable and sustainable. Sources of meat like venison or moose also make wonderful meals that keep really well, like roasts and beef jerky. Speaking of being in season, the same thing can be done with vegetables, which brings us to tip number 7, purchase in-season fruits and vegetables. Short of starting your own garden in the summer, which many people do for various reasons, purchasing in-season vegetables is a great way to save on cost when you still want to eat fresh produce. Here's a simple image of what's available in each season. It's all about knowing what is fresh and when. In the springtime, grabbing for more cucumbers and broccoli. In the summer months, green beans and berries. In the autumn, you have everyone's favorite basic option, the pumpkin, but also squash and potatoes. And in the winter, depending on where you live, you have apples and pears in season. But there are also ways you can save more actually in the store. Tip number 8, save in store with budgeting apps. Everyone knows I enjoy a good mobile app, so why not add one to save on all of your grocery purchases? With Flip, it allows you to pick your favorite stores, along with saving your most purchased items on a watch list, which then knows where to buy it for the cheapest price. This app lets you find weekly deals and clip any relevant savings to your grocery list. This leads to my next couple strategies, which comes down to better planning. Tip 9, encourage similar meals. In the nutrition world, we are always praising variety. Vary fruits and vegetables and color for different micronutrients. Rotate your protein sources to cover your bases for different amino acids as well as fatty acids. And this is generally good advice, but when a client is trying to eat healthy foods within a budget, too much variety can be problematic. And the answer here is routine, and encourage them to eat similar meals to cut down on food waste and learn how to prepare them within a budget and save time. This may be a bit robotic and monotonous for periods of time, but it shouldn't hurt from a nutritional perspective as well as save money. Which brings us to planning and tip number 10, planning meals in advance. Planning out meals for the week or a month is an excellent way to save money. Plan your meals out, go into the grocery store with a list and buy what's on that list. Sure, groceries are expensive, but the real expense here is purchasing food you won't eat. When a client is prepared with a plan, they can allot time to prepare the meals, put them in the fridge or freezer for when it's time to cook or reheat those meals. This obviously makes it easier to adhere to their nutrition plan as well. There's tons of guides like this that actually exist, sometimes free and sometimes for a fee, that give you everything you need to prepare your meals for an entire month. And last but not least, my last tip, tip number 11, supplemental protein. Remember, protein is going to be one of the more expensive things to buy on a budget. And although the price of supplemental protein has also went up with inflation, cost of ingredients, and demand, it can still be very cost effective, ranging between $1 to $2 for every 25 to 35 grams of protein per serving. And again, we don't have to think about waste or expiry dates, because generally supplemental protein like powders or bars do not go bad. Being able to eat more protein without the risk of it going bad is a huge perk for supplemental protein, adding to the convenience and effectiveness of these products, especially when people need to be eating more protein. And that's it, folks. The rising cost of food is all around us and everyone needs to eat. Many of your nutrition clients might be struggling to budget for healthy food, putting additional strain on their health and wellness, so I hope these tips help. Now, as great as all these tips are, if you're really serious about starting a nutrition coaching business, the next thing I'll have you do is check out this video linked up right here. Now that you know how to help clients eat healthy on a budget, check out the best non-meat protein sources in my top 10 list. So make sure to check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video.